Happy Friday. Welcome to Front Row Live. Let's get into it because the culture this week, they didn't just react, they chose sides, as they always do. So today we're breaking down who got graced, who got dragged, and who stayed silent. And with that, we're also going to talk about what the internet decided because, they're always choosing sides. So we're talking Jay-Z once again. He's walking away clean in court, cleaning up over the past few months as far as his court cases have gone. We're also getting into Stephen A. Smith responding to a question he didn't ask but couldn't ignore, and an NBA custody battle where serving papers was going to go courtside. We've heard something like that before, and we'll get into that too. Plus, Brian Austin Green responded to Tichina Arnold's comments about their past relationship. ASAP Rocky is dropping Don't Be Dumb. We're going to get into some details from that. And Jennifer Williams, she has some situations going on with her husband and some accusations, and now some funds that have to be paid out. All right, let's sort through the noise. So first up, we're going to get into who got graced. So that would be Jay-Z. A judge has dismissed with prejudice the latest lawsuit tied to this long-running paternity claims involving Ramir Satterthwaite, and has officially shut down this chapter of the litigation. We heard before that Ramir's suit was removed. So this time it is involving his godmother, who led this sort of charge after his mother's death to accuse Jay-Z, sue him to try and get him to take paternity tests as far as to say whether he was Ramir's father. If you don't know this story, basically what Ramir's mother claimed was that in the 90s, she had a relationship with Jay-Z. She would have been underage, and that they hooked up. She got pregnant. She ended up getting married. Another man signed the birth certificate, who was her husband. Years later, it came out that he was not, in fact, the father. He took a DNA test. And so she kind of went to her death claiming that Jay-Z was the father. Now, obviously, other than I think there may be a photo and her claims, there's nothing really tying them to that. A lot of people have been upset about this case because, one, they feel like Ramir looks like Jay-Z. I don't really know. I think he's styling himself to look like Jay-Z, but whatever. But basically, initially the suit was to have him take a DNA test, and it went to all of these different courts, and it was dismissed. Multiple courts, multiple jurisdictions, same outcome. The claims were repeatedly rejected, and the dismissal came without leave to amend, which means no do-overs. You can't come back a second time and get into it. Good evening, Maurice. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate you. And so at this point, the grace isn't emotional, it's judicial, right? The system is already saying that this has been answered. So the other piece to this is that she is going to have, her name is Lillie Coley, right? And she filed her own lawsuit, basically accusing him of avoiding it and avoiding parental responsibility while using his influence to shield himself from accountability, right? Well, she now has to pay him over $100,000 in court fees and legal fees and things of that nature behind these suits. I really feel like, it must be painful not to know who your father is, obviously, but Ramir is almost 32 years old. And at some point, you got to just let it fly or hope Blue Ivy ends up on Ancestry DNA one day. You have to be a grown man and stand up for yourself as a man. It's not really his fault. It's obviously, sorry, my sweater is bothering me. It's obviously his mother's fault for not making that distinction. But at some point, you have to decide, what do you really want from this man? Is it just acknowledgement? If he was Sean Carter that worked for, I don't know, an accounting firm, would it be this difficult? not really sure, but prayers to him for his peace of mind if it really is just about his father. But shouts out to Jay-Z. Courts start using this language when it's final. And I guess I kind of feel like public opinion at this point kind of has to follow, because this isn't something that has an impact on the culture or people at large. It's largely a personal issue, and none of the people that are heavily weighing in, myself included, were there for it. So, it's sad, but it kind of feels like this pattern is settled. For now, at least. Shout out to Royal Jenkins. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate you. All right, let's get into Stephen A. Smith, because, Stephen A. is always kind of at the top of headlines. That's his job. It's his job to be known. But ever since he started this slide into the political space, I guess, I feel as though it's not just about stepping outside of his comfort zone. It feels like you're stepping out and not really having a clear basis of reading the room around you, or even relating to the people that you say you are representing. I don't know. But so basically, Stephen A. has responded to claims that Black audiences don't like him. Instead of smoothing it over, he did what he did, addressed it head on and threw up all the receipts per him as to why he feels like y'all are tripping. How can you even assume that Black people don't like Stephen A? But what I will say is, I think that he is kind of out of touch with the feelings that he is invoking currently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, show you it. And then we're going to talk some more about it because, Stephen A. does Stephen A. things. Let's get to it.
Don't like me? I'm from Hollis, Queens, bro. I'm from the streets of New York City. I go to the streets of America everywhere, all over this country. I'm inside and outside arenas. I'm inside and outside local businesses and stuff like that. I'm the ambassador for HBCU Week in concert with Ashley Christopher and other people. I've helped generate over 12,000 scholarships in excess of $150 million for Black students. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I ain't just down with a fraternity. That's a brotherhood. All of them are my boys. I was raised by 5 Black women, Joy. I have 9 nieces. I have 2 daughters. Everybody Black. I still go home to Hollis. On the business side, ESPN takes our show, First Take, to HBCUs. Packed gymnasiums wherever we go. Black people don't like me? You sure? Walt Disney and HBCUs, when we start going on tours every year. We've been to Delaware State. We've been to Bethune-Cookman. We've been to Norfolk State. We've been to Winston-Salem State. We've been to Savannah State. Oh, yeah. We going to Texas Southern next month. We don't stop. And I said we. Because in concert with the very organization that I work for that you accused me of being paid by just to talk about white, just to talk nastiest things about Black people. What about what I celebrate? Black people don't like me? I'm from Hollis, Queens, bro.
Right.
I'm from the streets of New York City. I go to the streets of America.
All right, so that's what Stephen A. had to say. And I mean, so look, my feeling, wrong thing. Why am I doing this? All right, there we go. So I feel as though Stephen A. doesn't or isn't acknowledging the way that he has gone about attacking Joy Reid, his response to Carrie Champion, his comments about Jasmine Crockett. You sound like them, bruh. And here's the thing. I respect Stephen A.'s work ethic. We know what he has done as far as what he's laid down at ESPN. But I'm just going to say it. He is a very much older Gen X man who has some misogynistic viewpoints, and they spill out when he is discussing women and their place at times. And sometimes it feels like, although I know he backed that up with all of the history with his daughters and sisters and all of these things, that you don't respect women and what they have to offer, right? Listen, I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything or that you can't have your own personal opinion, but there's a level of respect, or rather disrespect, I feel he doles out when he is giving his opinion. It is what it is, bruh. But as far as Black people, Stephen A., you're not new. Of course, it's not every Black single person, but unless your head is under a rock, that there's a certain segment of people that aren't in agreement with what you're doing. Now, obviously, when you're out in the streets, people aren't going to run up to you necessarily. They will for some people and just be like, yo, you suck. They're not going to do that. But they do it on social media. So, I mean, one, you take that with a grain of salt, but you take all the love that you get with a grain of salt too. Remember, you're not supposed to get too high or too low on outside opinion. I just think he's being a little obtuse with the way things are going. But I mean, I suppose it's his right, right? Who wants to acknowledge something like that? That maybe some of the moves that I have been making as of late haven't really been adding up or connecting to anyone. I don't know. We'll have to see what develops with Stephen A. I'm curious because, I mean, obviously we're in a time where anybody, doesn't matter their history really, can end up in a government position. But is he really serious about this? And on the flip side of that, are people really taking Stephen A. in some type of political realm seriously? I just feel like we got to stop playing these games, but get out. We'll see what develops with that. So the dragging will continue. This is what happens sometimes when visibility outpaces belonging. You can't be everywhere, even when you're everywhere, and still not necessarily be claimed. I don't know. We'll see. But he got that 200 million though, right? 200 million seems to be the new status number. You think about it. Charlemagne got 200 million for his deal with iHeart. I mean, not iHeart. Was it his re-up with iHeart? Yes, it was, for his podcast network. And then I feel as though there was another deal that was recently announced that was in the $200 million edition. All right, on to the next who got dragged. So, Brittany Renner. Brittany. Sometimes I'm on her side. Sometimes I'm like, girl, you got to calm down. Royal Jenkins says, I'm not taking Stephen A. Smith serious as a politician. I mean, does anybody though? Really? Like, he's the sports guy. And I know he's doing the acting thing or going to start producing more things. His daughter is an actress. She was in the Best Man Final Chapter series. So, it is what it is, but we'll see. All right, let's get into Brittany Renner and PJ Washington because we've been hearing a lot about this, right? So PJ Washington is alleging that Brittany Renner's legal team has attempted to intimidate him in their custody battle, which has been ongoing. Remember, we saw when PJ came to pick up his son and his son was crying and Brittany was with her mom and they were like, he doesn't want to go with you because you never see him. And then they were talking about how he wasn't really doing his fair share, according to them, financially. I think her child support is $5,000 a month. She really wanted something more like 20, but his wife will show off, new cars or things of that nature. So obviously that can be a little point of contention for a baby's mom if you feel like you're suffering or at the very least not living the same lifestyle as the new chick, right? That's what a little bit of this seems like. But basically, her legal team threatened to serve him on court during an NBA game if he didn't agree to move the case to California. Now, by now, everyone knows that California is generally speaking more friendly towards mothers as far as child support goes, right? And Brittany's seeking an increase in her child support money. I believe originally the case was filed in, I don't know, Charlotte, maybe somewhere over there. I'm not sure where, right? But Brittany is back in LA and she wants her case moved here. Now, we've seen several cases, most notably recently, Anthony Edwards, his baby's mom, she moved here to establish a better child support claim. We've seen it time after time after time throughout the years because we pay more. We meaning the state of California. But I guess they basically sent emails stating that they were discussing buying 8 courtside seats for both the Clippers and the Lakers game to place process servers there behind the visitors' bench at $2,000 a seat to serve him, right? And Washington and his lawyers are arguing that California courts lack jurisdiction beyond scheduled NBA appearances. And Brittany's team is saying his repeated presence in the state makes California appropriate. Now, here's the thing that's sticky and could get him a little bit caught up. There is something known as the jock tax. And if you're not familiar with it, athletes that play, let's say your home state, you play for the Dallas Mavericks or the Cowboys, right? So cool. Texas has no state income tax. You pay your federal taxes there. But you play the Rams in California and the Clippers and the Lakers. You go to Atlanta and you're playing the Hawks and the Falcons. Guess what? You have to pay taxes there. So with that, I don't know. Brittany might have had legal cause, well, her team, to do what they did, right? If you remember famously, years ago, Gilbert Arenas was dipping and dodging, actually sat out of a game to avoid being served by Laura Govan's people. So, you know, I hope they resolve this. I hope their son is happy and in tune with both of the parents, because when custody battles become performative, people stop debating the law and start debating character. And we know Brittany's character has always been up for discussion. She wrote her book about several of her dalliances with famous athletes, but she was much younger then. We know she was on Basketball Wives and she adopted the Muslim religion for Kevin Gates, and I guess they had a spiritual union. I'm not even getting started on that because I feel like, girl, if you're changing your religion for a fling, you gotta kind of maybe discuss where you're at as far as focus. But that's a conversation for another day, and that's really her, their business. But maybe we'll see a courtside serving. I think PJ needs to get this under control, right? I don't know why he hasn't had his people on this a long time ago. We've been going back and forth about this for quite some time, from when the footage was put out, when they first broke up. Shout out to Maurice Geis in the chat. He said Stephen A. Smith, he's a buffet. Did you mean buffoon? Buffet? He's trying to be, buffet. You did mean buffet. He's trying to be everything to everybody. So maybe if I finished reading, I would have caught the joke. It's going to be an interesting thing to see how Stephen A. merits out this last part of his career, because the politics thing, I don't think it's going to stick. I think he's going to push, but I don't think it's going to stick. As far as Brittany and PJ, listen, everybody has to live with their choices. I just hope that when people are doing all of this, seriously, your kids are going to see this. They're going to see it one day. All right, we have been talking about this next story. We're still on Who Got Dragged, right? This is a little emotional, not maliciously, but it happened. So Tichina Arnold talked about when she dated Brian Austin Green, that's David Silver from Beverly Hills 90210, and that she thought that basically he was just out there for a minute, just a phase. He was into hip hop. He might have wanted the black chick to go along with it, right? And I have been repeating over and over again that I think that she may not have been wrong about making that assessment, just because public facing, we haven't seen Brian with another black woman. Well, not that we saw them, but all of his relationships, his marriages, his children's mothers, they're all white women, right? But he went on the same podcast, Dion Cole's podcast, and actually said, nope, it was the reverse. She wanted to keep it undercover because she was on Martin. He felt like, it didn't line up. We know the 90s were a different time. And yes, it was, and I say cool loosely, for Black men to date out, but Black women were under a different type of scrutiny, as they usually are. And she probably wasn't sure about it. Also, we're kind of unclear on when they exactly dated and when Tichina was dating and dealing with her first husband. Seems like there might have been a little cross there. So maybe that's too why she wanted to keep it private. I don't know that to be for certain because I don't know the dates. I'm just putting it out there. But Brian said that, it affected his self-esteem when that took place. So we're going to take a look. Oops, I hit play too soon. We're going to take a look at the clip and hear what Brian had to say. And then we'll talk about it a little more. I keep messing up. But yeah, so let's listen to Brian and his explanation of what happened. All right. Let me run this back.
So we ended up fooling around and kind of dating, but it's funny. So the pride that you say in culture and race, like I think coming from Martin, she was very clear in the, Tichina, I love you. I love you. She was very clear on day one of like, nobody can know about this.
Really?
Nobody. Like, can't tell people, can't talk about this.
Yeah.
And so I was in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in a culture that wasn't accepting of me, but there was no way to get out of it because that was just where my brain and my heart were.
Right.
So I was really insecure. And then I have someone who I'm attracted to who's telling me like, oh, you can't tell anybody.
Oh, yeah.
I think for me, like it really triggered something of like, oh, okay, I'm not good enough for any of this. You don't even want your friends to know that you're hanging out with me.
You wanted to be out with her. And
I wanted to in the beginning for sure. And then I quickly felt like, oh, okay, just like my love of hip hop and all my other shit, like this is, I have to shut the up and, and sit in the back of the car and like just be happy that I'm in the car.
All right. So that's that on that. Now I watched further because initially I just watched that clip. But I'm like, let me go check out a little bit more of the interview. I haven't finished yet. But what I will say is what he also added was that he dated a Black woman for 10 years. He said, so who's really dabbling as far as what goes on? He was like, you dated one Black man and you were done? I thought that was kind of funny, kind of cute. He also said that because someone asked me when I talked about this on my KBLA show, did Tisha know? And so here's the thing. She actually took David with her to Jamaica to Regina King's wedding, where all of the girls were there, all of the 90s it girls, right? All the 90s hot girls. And he was there, but he said at that point he felt awkward about the relationship because he had been kept a secret. So it was a weird experience. And I guess he was kind of, when people do that thing where they're insecure about something, so they kind of project what they feel others are thinking or looking at. So I think he said that he was wondering if he felt like people were going to be saying, oh, why is he here? What's he doing? Poser, things of that nature. So I thought that was some added texture that should be dropped in. And I mean, I still say, even if he was in those 10-year relationships, they weren't public. He wasn't on red carpets with them like he was with Vanessa Marcel and Megan Fox. So there's that. But, Brian still looks nice, well preserved. Is Tichina single? Maybe there's a chance to rekindle, They had a little meet cute. They could have a meet cute fast forward in the future. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, those were some of the added things that he asked. So it wasn't a total secret. She did introduce him to her friends and bring him to that environment. But, ultimately she felt like it wasn't going anyplace. And the thing is, in that conversation, right, both of those individuals can be right in their assessments and just be talking past each other because they didn't open up or communicate early on. Tichina spoke from her agency, Brian spoke from the impact, and they probably never had a real discussion about it because they were both, I think, in their early to mid 20s when this was going on. So, we'll see. We'll see. Everything was respectful, though. That's what I appreciated about this. Okay, so let's talk about some other revelations that have popped up. Who stayed defensive, right? But it said a lot. So reports have revealed that Jennifer Williams' husband, Christian Gold, aka Christian Walden, was hit with a $367,000 default judgment in Georgia based on a fraud case after failing to respond to a lawsuit, right? So basically in the lawsuit, he was accused of basically running an elaborate pyramid scheme where he would get people to invest financially and then giving them their returns. But of course, initially they would get, the first couple of returns back, and then they would pour in way more money and they wouldn't hear from him or something along those lines. So, he says it's a misunderstanding. I don't know. But Jennifer, instead of addressing the ruling directly, posted screenshots praising her husband from an alleged victim and said that the weapon was formed, but it didn't prosper. But the judgment is real and documented in court. So I don't know. It's, accountability shouldn't be reframed as persecution, but I know that's how we do sometimes. Spiritual language, sidestepping legal consequences. I don't know, Jennifer, but shouldn't he have gone to court and not let a default judgment put him out of this position? And now, as a married couple, doesn't it fall on Jennifer as well? And beyond that, isn't that the exact same thing that Evelyn Lozada was talking about, that she was concerned about? I know a lot of people don't feel Evelyn, and I know a lot of people were, questioning her being involved in Jennifer's relationship in that manner, to have an opinion as such, and that she should mind her business, and she was jealous because she didn't have a man. But I do feel like it really was out of concern. And if you kind of look at the picture, kind of seems like dude was not necessarily living right, We'll see. Faith language does not cancel legal responsibilities, right? And the internet is less patient with that pivot than it used to be. So we hope it works it out. It all works out. We hope it, comes together and all of those good things. Okay, let's get into what the internet decided this week. The internet has decided, and actually ASAP Rocky kind of confirmed this, that ASAP's dropping a new album. I think it just came out yesterday. Don't Be Dumb. And there is one track that immediately set timelines on fire. The song is called Stole Your Flow, and listeners immediately zeroed in on some lyrics that they felt were very poignant, and that they pointed to one Aubrey Graham, who has been receiving a lot of heat, as we know, for the past, it's going on 2 years now. Rocky in the song didn't say any names, but the internet filled in the blanks, reading the track as a subliminal aimed at Drink, right? Now, Don't Be Dumb is Rocky's first full-length studio album in several years. Highly anticipated, closely watched. People are ready to see him doing something outside of just being Mr. Rihanna. And that's no shade. I mean, go and look fabulous with your wife. I'm not sure. But, they're ready for new music. So on Stole Your Flow, fans highlighted the lyrics implying biting style, borrowing cadence, watching someone profit off of a sound that wasn't originally theirs. And ASAP says a line like, "You stole my flow, I took your beat." Fans are mad because they're like, if he is talking about Rihanna, well, first of all, if he wasn't talking about Rihanna, why are you referencing somebody outside of Rihanna? And then second, they're saying, if you are talking about Rihanna, why are you referring to as a B? It's hip hop. We know that is part of the language, but people feel like at this point you have 3 children together, you are married, and I put that in quotes because I don't know if they're legally married, spiritual union, whatever. I'm not really personally one way or another about it, but just because, someone will leave a comment. But they're upset a little bit at him speaking about her in that manner. He basically said it's for whoever feels like it applies to them. But in an interview, he did kind of, basically make it plain. Yeah, it's about who you think it's about. So we're going to listen to what he had to say with that and, get into it. Nope, wrong one. Wrong one. This is the right one. Here we go. All right. Oops.
Who you're talking about on that
For
song.
sure. I think we all know.
They're going to say it's Drake. I mean, that's a man who was with you in those early days too,
sure.
Brought you on tour. Where did things go wrong in that relationship?
I mean, I don't know. I started just seeing people who just started out as friends and just became foes, seemed like they was unhappy for you and, just started sending shots. And I think that's what led to any of our misunderstandings or whatever the case is. So it really ain't smoke.
Does it feel resolvable to you, or you think it's too far?
It don't even need to be. Like, for what?
But you're like, no secret, like that song's for him.
Nah, I don't really.
Or it's for anyone.
It's
who
for
might
whoever
be...
feel like it's about them.
Okay. Fair enough. Obviously.
So that's it on that. He's not really trying to hide it. I do wonder though, like, I can't recall. I know he jumped into the fray last year a little bit, but I mean, ASAP, was he talking to you in the stuff? Or you just want to be included? Or you still leftover residual beef? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if people are just involving themselves, especially as we're almost 2 years removed from this initial thing. If it's really just, hey, this will get me some attention too. I mean, obviously he's with Rihanna, so he doesn't necessarily have to do a great deal to get attention. But, modern day warfare says jump in, attention is currency, and we'll see. We know Drake has a new album that's dropping soon, Iceman Cometh. So we'll see if he has smoke for ASAP on there. We know some people, well, we assume who he's going to have smoke for. I hope he drops in some of his old Heartbreak Drake type stuff, because I feel like that would help him. I just do. But it is what it is. And we're talking about who stayed silent. Obviously, Drake hasn't thrown any shots yet, but I'm sure he will on, something or whatever. But we'll have to see. First, he has to clear up that stuff with Aiden Ross, because that stuff looks crazy. And I hope he checked him. Probably not, though, about the conversation with Doechii. So it is what it is. Okay, so look, this wasn't about proving things, who stole what from who with ASAP. I think it was just a hip-hop dunk, but that's what hip-hop does. I suppose you can get yours off at any time. But babe, you're with Rihanna now, move past it and just be fabulous and make your music. Let me know what you guys think of the album, because I haven't really been hearing a lot about it. I'm not saying that means bad or good. I'm just curious, like, do people still check for ASAP as a rapper, or should he slide right on over to the acting thing, since, people liked his performance in Highest to Lowest? We'll see what happens next. But, thank you guys for tapping in this week on Front Row Live. Remember, I'm on. If you're new here, hit like, hit subscribe. Appreciate it. I'm Jill Munroe. I'm on KBLA Talk 1580 Monday through Thursday, 6 p.m. Here on Fridays at 5 p.m. Tap in with me. If there's something you want to cover, let me know. Remember, always think about who is steering the story and why. I'll catch you guys